What's up, everybody? Welcome to Discourse and Chill. I'm Ian.
And I'm your girl, Reese.
Today, we're going to talk about how on August 4th, 2022, a federal grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky returned two unsealed indictments, and the Department of Justice filed a third charging document in connection with an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of Breonna Taylor, who was shot and killed in her Louisville home on March 13th, 2020 by police officers executing a search warrant. And we just wanted to say her name. Breonna Taylor. We have been saying this for 2 years that her death was a travesty, her death was a murder, her death was an execution. And today we're going to talk about how all of those protests, all of those feelings, all of those emotions have been justified, and there's evidence to prove it all. And I'm again, I feel very similar to how I felt regarding George Floyd in that indictment process. It doesn't feel good, but it feels like justice, and it's still a new thing to process for me, right? It still feels like it took way too long, and it still feels clunky, but we are making progress to help bring justice for her family, for her, and I'm happy about this step. How about you, Reese? How do you feel about this?
I feel like after 874 days, finally, the start to what could possibly be justice has finally come into play. Like you said, they protested. I think it was 180 straight days of constant protesting in Louisville in regards to Breonna Taylor. And here we are 2+ years later, finally getting some headway into the situation, finally seeing that, this young queen should still be here, finally seeing that, okay, somebody is paying attention. And as a Black woman, my death does matter, as a person of color. It can't continue that I will be murdered in my sleep unjustly. So I think that it is a step in the right direction. I think that it was, the right thing to do. We're only at the beginning of it, though. Again, like I said, for it's a
Mm-hmm.
step for possible justice. Because we know how these things turn out too many times. They don't always go as they should. But we are in the right direction, and we continue to say her name, Breonna Taylor. And hate that she had to be the one to jumpstart the conversation or jumpstart people getting into action for the wrongful death of Black women and men, in this country.
Absolutely. I think that um I like the way you put it. It's the beginning, right? Like it's still the start of. And so we've
Yeah.
finally taken the steps in the right direction, finally.
Yeah, I think it's dope. The Justice Department charged four officers: former detective Joshua James, current detective Kyle Meany, former no, Kyle is a sergeant, current sergeant Kyle Meany, former detective Brett Hankinson, and current officer Kelly Goodlett. Um, they basically announced that these officers falsified an affidavit used to obtain a search warrant of Breonna Taylor's home, which violated her federal civil rights and resulted in Breonna Taylor's death. Again, Breonna Taylor should be alive today. There is no reason why she should not be here. And the fact that they lied about, the allegations makes it even worse. So, and to think that they thought they could get away with lying about this lady having illegal drugs being mailed to her house. Like, what? But I am glad that, they say the truth comes to light. I'm glad that the light is shining on this, and Breonna Taylor's death hopefully is not in vain, that this is the beginning to an investigation into the overall department and the system there of, things that are possibly going on, because I feel like if you lie once, you lie twice. So what else have you lied about? Who else has been a victim and it has not come to light? I am glad for those 180 days of protests in Louisville. I am glad that people continue to say the name of Breonna Taylor. I'm glad that her parents, her loved one, her friends have not stopped pushing the issue to get justice for her. And I'm glad that again we are at the start of possible justice for Breonna Taylor. She should definitely still be here.
Breonna Taylor should absolutely be alive today. And when I
Yes.
first heard that the one of the allegations was that they falsified the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant, right? So like from the
Yeah.
beginning, this was all BS. Like it had no legs to
Yep.
stand on. So they shouldn't even been there, right? So what were they trying to
Right.
prove? Who were they trying to find? Like what was the motive behind it? Because it sounds like murder to me. It sounds like an execution even more. Because why would you
Yeah.
lie about this in the first place? And it makes me
Yeah.
incredibly sad and incredibly terrified, right? Like, because I think of the police as people who do not protect and serve, like people who willfully do the thing that they believe is like helpful for the society that they have chosen to provide services
Yep.
to, right? And that does not include me. But to think that all the times that people talk about the man, like this is who we're talking about, is these officers right here who
Yeah.
lie in the first place, like who throw the rock and hide their hand. Like this is when people
Yeah.
have yelled out like I didn't have drugs that was planted on me. Like how can you not think about all the people incarcerated right now who
Right.
who are potentially in this situation, who are in Louisville or Kentucky prisons or jails with false allegations or false
Yeah.
affidavits used to obtain search warrants. Like, so okay, they may have had weed on them, they may have had cocaine, they may have had drugs, but there was a false affidavit to obtain a search warrant. So, and in this instance, somebody
Yeah.
died, right? And in another instance, somebody
Yeah.
could have been sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. And in other instances, somebody could have been
Yeah.
sentenced to life in prison. So it really makes me think about all of the people who were victims of these four officers and the other officers within that
Mm-hmm.
department, and just makes me incredibly sad for what kind of destruction they have had on so many people's lives. You know, like so many people could have been affected by these
Yeah.
people, and so many people have been affected by these people. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark said that since the founding of our nation, the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution has guaranteed that all people have a right to be secure in their homes, free from false warrants, unreasonable searches, and the use of unjustifiable and excessive force by the police. And I love that she said that because I feel like people are always using the Constitution in ways that it wasn't meant to be used. And I love that it was used in this instance. Uh, these indictments reflect the Justice Department's commitment to preserving the integrity of the criminal justice system and to protect the constitutional rights of every American. When I read this, I think of preserving the integrity of the criminal justice system, and I think of to protecting the constitutional rights of every American. The first part, the criminal justice system, it lacks integrity on the face of it. Period. Like we
Yeah.
can't preserve the integrity of something that has none. The criminal justice system here in America is a farce. It has terrible beginnings. It has even more terrible history and foundation and current practice. It is a terrible system that we need to get out of. um,
Yes.
and protecting the constitutional rights of every American. Like to this day, I still do not feel that the Constitution protects me. Um, and so I'm glad to hear this, and I think it's a great thing to say, but it doesn't sit well with me at all because I don't believe
Yeah.
in the integrity of the criminal justice system that is meant to punish, not to reform, not to make our society better, but as a way to make money in this country, as a way for
Yeah.
business to flourish in this country. And the constitutional rights of people of color have been tested on a regular basis, have been violated numerous times. And I'm hopeful that these things will change, but I also know better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and when they say that all people have a right to be secure in their homes, at the time this was written, they weren't talking about me or you, you know.
Yeah.
So for her to say that, they are strictly trying to enforce this, that people have the right to be secure in their homes and free from false warrants and things of that nature, like you said, I'm glad that somebody said that in regards to Breonna Taylor. I'm glad that somebody said that in regards to a person
Mm-hmm.
of color. I'm glad somebody said that, in regards to quote unquote Americans, because at the end of the day, again, this wasn't written for you or me or, anyone who looks like you or me.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that they are going to, stand on, the integrity of that or stand on enforcing that, it does sound good. And I hate to be like,
Mm-hmm.
skeptical, because again, I just know how these things play out. So I'm still standing on, this is the start to possible justice. uh, I hope
Mm-hmm.
that it is actual justice. Because again, Breonna Taylor should still be here. I'm going to say her name and continue to say her name, because there is no reason why
Breonna
this
Taylor.
young queen is not here. you know so I do think that it is good that they want to protect the rights of every American. Breonna Taylor was an American. You and I are Americans. So to hear that they are trying to protect those rights for Americans and to be lumped into the umbrella of Americans sounds good. I just want to be able to feel
Mm-hmm.
and believe that that is where we are going as a country. But
That
let's talk
part.
about some of
That
these
part.
indictments, though. Right, so let's talk about some of these
Yes.
indictments. So, the first indictment charges former detective James and current Sergeant Meany with federal civil rights and obstruction offenses for their role in preparing and approving a false search warrant affidavit that resulted in Breonna Taylor's death. Preparing a false affidavit. Like that part. The second indictment charges Detective Brett Hankinson with civil rights offenses for firing his service weapon into Breonna Taylor's apartment through a covered window and covered glass door. Like, you can't even see in it. You shooting in with the blinds and the blackout curtains. How, Sway? Who you shooting at? What you shooting at? You can't even see it. You know. And the third charging document charges Detective Kelly Goodlett with conspiring with James to falsify the search warrant for Breonna Taylor's home and then to cover up the actions afterwards. So you create this false affidavit. She is murdered in her sleep, and then you want to cover it up too. Like, I just don't understand the thought process of some people. Like, at what point in this did this sound like a good idea? Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. Like, where in this situation did you feel like everything's gonna go smoothly? We're gonna get us another one, Bob. Like, we got this one. Like, where there was no thought process. Like, okay, this might go horribly wrong. Like, what are we really doing? Do we care about human life? So I am
Mm-hmm.
glad that the indictment charges lump all of that into it and basically says, that they falsified, i.e., lied flat out.
Absolutely. Like they blatantly lied, right? To create a
Blatantly
document so they
lied.
could gain
Mm-hmm.
access to somebody's home while they slept to pursue something that was
Mm-hmm.
not there, that they knew was not there, and that they had no evidence to support that was not. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Why, Sway? Like, why? Like, what were you
Right.
expecting to find? What were you expecting to do in this situation? It sounds
Right.
ridiculous. Like, you knew, were you just bored? Like, you'd have nothing to do that evening. You were just like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a document. I think this person may be there, but I know that they're not. And we're gonna go do a raid today because we bored today at work. You know, like
Right.
it
Like,
just
is there really is there really a quota that has to be filled? You know, are we up for promotion? Let me make myself look good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what exactly, again, what was
mm-hmm.
the thought process? You know, they say that there's a certain number of quotas that they have to have for like speeding tickets and all these different things. Like, is there really a quota system that is in place within these different
Yeah.
police departments, you know? And then two, is it does it affect your
Mm-hmm.
promotion if you get so many arrests or if you have so many charges or indictments against criminals? Then, you know, like, are you trying to, like, you know, pad your pockets and receive a promotion on false
Mm-hmm.
pretenses? Like, again, like, why is there not a
Yeah.
regard for human life? That part I still just don't understand, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I think the constitutional, like, we were seen at as 3/5 first, right? We have not been seen as whole, and I think that when police
Yeah.
kill people of color, black people, like, we're not seen as humans, whole humans with whole
Yeah.
experiences, with whole families. We're always seen as
Yeah.
part or only of what action that we do, right? Like,
Yeah.
LeBron James, I feel like, is a great human being, but to a lot of people, they see him as a basketball player, right? Like, he has a singular
Mm-hmm.
existence, even though he lives a way that he's affecting kids' lives. He has a family. Like, he is a cisgendered male who was married to a white, like, married to a woman. Like, he has an existence that has so many different intersections, right? And I think cops see a lot of. I think I want to say, I want to lump everybody in. I'm going to say I think some cops see some, like, a lot of black people only within a singular lens. Like, we can only be violent. We can
Yeah.
only be drug dealers. We can only be thieves. Like, we can only be things that break laws and be things that are dangerous. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the disregard for human life comes in that mindset that we'll get away with it, one, and two, this
Yeah.
person is only as good as their last crime, you know, or only as much as
Right.
their last crime. And it's sad to say, and it may be viewed as something that, like, oh, I'm exaggerating, but that's your lens. My lens has not shown me any different. Like, how I've been treated in this
Right.
country has reinforced these thoughts and beliefs that I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess some things in the first indictment. We're going to go over some of the counts. So in the first indictment, count one charges that James and Meany, while acting in their official capacities as officers, willfully deprived Taylor of her constitutional rights by drafting and approving a false affidavit to obtain a search warrant for Taylor's home. Count two charges James with conspiracy for agreeing with another detective to cover up the false warrant affidavit after Taylor's death by drafting a false investigative letter and making false statements to criminal investigators, including the FBI. Count three charges James with falsifying a report with the intent to impede a criminal investigation into Taylor's death. Count four charges Meany with making a false statement to federal investigators. So there was a lie, and that lie continued to grow. So
Mm-hmm.
this
Okay.
indictment is just literally honesty that just did not exist, right? From the beginning to the
Yeah.
end, they had this story and they tried to cover it up by backdating and drafting false investigative letters, making false statements to
Mm-hmm.
investigators and FBI. Like, it just was a whole entire conspiracy to kill somebody and then try to get away with it by any means necessary.
Yeah.
and that is scary. I think people don't feel like how. Well, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I sometimes feel don't think people truly understand for people of color and like me as a black man. Like this scares the shit out of me. I know I'm not gonna like
Yeah.
break the law, right? Like I have a pretty
Mm-hmm.
solid understanding of the law, and I'm pretty confident in my like life choices and my circumstances that have helped contribute to where I am today. That
Yeah.
like I feel confident to say that like you know what I think I can make choices to keep me safe and out of the purview of
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement. I don't feel safe
Yeah.
from this part, right? Like I don't feel safe
Yeah.
from living life in a way that abides the law and still becoming a victim
Mm-hmm.
of the law, right? Like that's the part that
Yeah.
people don't see, and like the weight that people who look like me and look like Reese carry on a regular basis. It's not that we're not law
Yeah.
abiding, it's that like even when we're law abiding, we're still a fucking target, right? We're still a target.
Right. Right. It's like the caucasity of you to lie to the feds. Like you even lying to the feds. Like I
Listen.
just don't understand. Like again, it's a privilege that you and I will never have the opportunity to experience. It's a privilege that you and I will never be able to do in good conscience. Like, you know what I'm saying? Again, the caucasity of this whole situation. Like, I'm gonna lie. And, your grandma always said, all right, you tell one lie, you gotta tell another one. You have to keep telling lies until eventually you don't forgot the first lie. So again, you have to keep
Mm-hmm.
lying, and you say this lie and add that lie to it. Like they teach you as children, don't lie, don't be out here, don't be a little liar, you don't do white lies, you don't do black lies, you just don't do lies,
Mm-hmm.
period. Like, and I've
Right.
always heard stop lying, like, so again, the caucasity of the situation to be bold enough to lie to get an affidavit or an affidavit for a search warrant, then execute it all kinds of wrong, take this woman's life and then continue to lie about it again to try to cover up that you done did like some sideways stuff, and then when the
Mm-hmm.
investigation comes, you're gonna sit right down and, no, Mr. Federal Officer, sir, nope, we had everything right, this is what we believe, so like what again, the thought process, the caucasity of it all, I just don't
The
understand.
privilege.
And again, it's not meant for my understanding. I'll never have the privilege of that understanding, like you said, because I am law abiding, most times, because I do have a heavy foot. I speed a little bit, but I'm working on that. But I'm not trying to work in nobody's spot, so I'm not blindly shooting at
Mm-hmm.
people. Like, what in the world?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the
Yeah.
ideal that you are bold enough, you are arrogant enough to think that you can sit here and lie to the feds and it not be a thing. I understand
Mm-hmm.
that some white people don't fear law or justice. Some white people don't know consequence. And some white people just don't have no damn common sense. Like I just don't, like it's just crazy again that the lives of minorities is an afterthought or not even a thought at all. Like, when you are constantly seen as less than from people who are supposed to protect and serve, like I don't trust that you're trying to protect or serve me. I do trust that you're going to protect yourself and by any means to include lying to get anything to stand up quote unquote against me. So just
Mm-hmm.
to know that
Absolutely.
they still operate in this good old boy mentality at times is definitely scary. I have 4 black nephews, and
Mm-hmm.
every day I worry about them. Every day I am concerned when they walk out the house, from the now 21-year-old, my oldest nephew is 21, from the now 21-year-old to the 6-year-old, it's like how am I as a black woman, a black auntie, how are we as black mothers supposed to be comfortable letting our black sons go out into the world, letting our black husbands go out into the world, and our just black cousins, nephews, uncles, fathers go out into the world. And I always say this, Black women worry so much. We pray for you and cover you all the time. When I say text me when you get home, let me know, you're safe. Like, I mean, I do that because I just need that peace of mind. We talked about this in season 1. Like, I had to get you to the understanding when I say, let me know you made it, let me know you made it, because I'm worried for my friend. I need to make sure that he went out into the world as positive and as law-abiding and as, straight arrow as he possibly can. And that means nothing to some people in this world. You can do everything by the book, follow all the rules, listen to the lessons, implement those lessons, and still not make it home. So it's just crazy, again, the caucasity of some people to think that it's okay to just sit down. You realize out here lying to the feds. Like, I just don't get that,
Yeah. And I think we don't get it because we don't have the luxury. We don't have the luxury to get it, right? Like, we don't have the ability to potentially survive those actions. So we don't understand how we could take something this far, because first of all, our mamas would kill us, right? First of all, we have to deal with the mamas, because our mamas would beat our asses. That part.
Okay. My mama crazy.
Next. Exactly.
Still, my mama crazy.
Exactly. And then second, like, I think it's just knowing survival depends on us being compliant as possible. It depends on us like not being involved at all, and so, like, there's physical safety, there's like potential psychological harm. There's so much that we have to like navigate in the decisions that we make, and there clearly wasn't anything in the way of them navigating this decision, right? Like, there was no hesitation. There was like a full, thoughtful plan to make this happen and to make it go away,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it didn't go away. I'm glad that we are still saying her name, Breonna Taylor, and that we are saying her name now with it being attached to possible justice. We talked about the first indictment. So in the second indictment, there are a couple of counts as well. The second indictment is against Hankinson, and it includes 2 civil rights charges alleging that Hankinson willfully used unconstitutionally excessive force while acting in his official capacity as an officer. Like, I'm gonna say that again. You're unconstitutionally acting as an official police officer. Make that make sense, when he basically fired his service weapon into Breonna Taylor's apartment through a covered window and a covered glass door. Again, what are you seeing? Like, you can't see what you're shooting at. So that to me is just like, okay, like, you doing target practice in the dark? Are you blind? Are you going all off of like sound? Like, what I'm saying? Is this like a training exercise? Like, what are we really doing? So the counts in that indictment, count 1 charged him of depriving Breonna Taylor and a person staying in her apartment of their constitutional right by firing shots through the bedroom window that was covered with blinds and blackout curtains. And then count 2 charges him with depriving 3 of Breonna Taylor's neighbors of their constitutional rights by firing shots through a sliding glass door that was covered with blinds and a curtain, alleging that several of those bullets traveled through the wall of Breonna Taylor's home into the apartment unit occupied by her neighbors. Both counts allege that Hankinson used a dangerous weapon. He did. There's an allegation in that. And that his conduct involved an attempt to kill. It's saying that he went in with the intent or attempting to kill. Like, it's really crazy how in that situation, like, even the feds know, bruh, what you doing? Like, it makes no sense. In that, the information that was charging Officer Goodland a charges officer dealing with conspiracy contains only one count. It charges her with conspiring with James to falsify the warrant affidavit for Breonna Taylor's home, and then filing a false report to cover up that false affidavit. You know, we talked about this again. You tell one lie, you have to tell another lie, and the lie just keeps growing until it's out of control. You know, so the idea that you are willfully lying, you are going along, you know, I guess you're trying to go along and get along. I don't know what her thought process was with this. Like, you know, as a woman, you are conspiring against another woman, you know, and again, because the other woman was a black woman, you could care less. You know, it's just really crazy how upsetting it is to know that as a black woman there is like no protection. You know, as a black woman there is no regard. As a black woman, even from other women, as a black woman, it's like, all right, well, yeah, you know, we'll just tell this lie, keep it moving, nobody will care, you know. When I
Mm-hmm.
say that we are some of the most unprotected people, you know, Malcolm said it best. You know, the black woman is the most unprotected. You know, and we have endured a lot to be the strongest people. We are the least regarded people, and that
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, it's crazy to me. You know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that it's crazy to think that this officer is shooting through a window that is covered with curtains and blinds with the only intention is to maim, injure, kill somebody, right? Because you can't see what's
right,
in there. You don't even know if your
right,
other fellow officers have made entry from another location. You don't know anything that's going on the other side of this glass, and
right.
they were just taking shots. Those shots
Yeah.
also went into other people's homes, and
Mm-hmm.
you put other people in danger and at risk,
Mm-hmm.
those that you're there to protect and serve. And it it's sad. Like it's sad that
Yeah.
this is a representation of police officers. And
Mm-hmm.
I hear often that not all police officers are bad. And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And not bad in action, but bad in allowing this type of evil to exist within the
Yeah.
ranks. They always close
Yeah.
ranks to protect their own, right? Instead of
Mm-hmm.
rooting out all of the bad apples that y'all call them,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
you allow the bad apples to remain in your orchard. So it's a bad orchard as far as I'm concerned. And until
Yeah.
the culture of police departments become getting out of the bad apples, getting the bad apples out,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, instead of like quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
protecting our own, like the
Mm-hmm.
police department is never going to have buy-in from people of color, from
Mm-hmm.
underrepresented communities, from the poor. It's going to be very difficult to continue to trust that they're going to protect and serve in a way that
Yeah.
is beneficial to all. Because right
Yeah.
now, it it usually feels like it's beneficial to some, to a certain
Mm-hmm.
few, a select few. Um,
Yeah.
and I think this case proves it. Because I'm sure that these aren't the only
Mm-hmm.
four officers that knew of this. And
Right.
maybe there's evidence to prove me wrong, but I don't believe that. I believe that when you do something like this and you believe you get away with something like this, there are other people who are aware, and maybe there were some
Right.
whistleblowers, and maybe that's why we're able to get to this point. And there were some people who came and spoke up, and I would love to hear about them. And if there wasn't, then that makes me even more sad and more disappointed and more
Yeah.
like reluctant to trust. the officers of the
Yeah.
law, and not just in Louisville, Kentucky, but here in Denver, Colorado, or in Fayetteville, North Carolina, or wherever my body may be at any given time.
Yeah.
I think it's not about how you handle individual cases. It's about how you handle those cases and how you handle your fellow officer. And can you
Mm-hmm.
really speak out against the wrongdoings of your fellow officer when it breaks the law, when it is morally wrong,
Yeah.
when it puts the integrity of your department in question? Like that's what make
Yeah.
good police officers, that will make good police departments, is that when you can stand up and say this person or these people were wrong and stand up for it.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
in 2020, there was just one thing after another, after another, after another. And I
Mhm.
put up a post and I said, when the crop is bad, you have to burn it to the ground in hopes for more fertile soil. And, we have to
Mhm.
definitely look into burning it down, and that don't mean, I don't mean that in the literal
Mhm.
sense. I'm not telling people to go out here and burn down their communities, because you got to live there.
Facts.
Stop burning down black communities, black people. You have to go home. Where are you going to shop? Who is going to take care of all your needs within the community if you burn the community down? Stop doing that.
Mhm.
But definitely, in order to get fertile soil, farmers they burn the crops, in order to
Mhm.
revitalize what is there, in order to re-nurture the ground. And some of these systems need to be burned down and restructured. And I mean, we are moving in archaic times when we think about the systematic, or the structure of the systems that we have into play, so
Mhm.
burn baby burn, burn baby burn.
Yeah, burn it down. And like Reese said, we're not telling you to go out and burn anything literally down to the ground, but we're talking about the systemic things, the systemic systems in place that are used to oppress so many people. So that is
Yeah.
our police departments, our criminal justice system, our jails, our prisons. These are not places that um, foster the message that they have said that they foster, right? Like protect and serve is
Right.
not how we view police officers, right? Like rehabilitation
Yeah.
is not how we believe that jails or prisons operate. So we need to really tear down these systems from the inside and build more uh, inclusive structures that allow for people to feel safe in all regards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I think we're going to next talk about. It said that all of the civil rights charges involved alleged violations of Title 18, the United States Code, Section 242, which makes it a crime for an official acting under color of law, meaning an official who is using or abusing authority given to that person by the government to willfully violate a person's constitutional rights. The maximum sentence of life imprisonment, where the violation results in death or involves an attempt to kill. The obstruction counts charged in the indictments carry a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years, and the conspiracy counts carry a statutory maximum sentence of 5 years, as does the false statement charges. Um, I think that given the situation, these are all very fair punishments for the
Mm-hmm.
actions of these officers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't believe that these are excessive. I don't believe that. Um, I don't know that these officers will face the maximum sentence for the
Yeah.
indictments, and I'm curious to see what the judge decides, because at the end of the day, that's who's going to make this decision. Is the judge is going to make this
Mm-hmm.
decision of how long they're going to spend in jail if they are found guilty. And as we said in the beginning, this is the first step, the indictment, and the legal proceeding or the court process is next, and then we'll get to sentencing. But these are just some of the some of the potential sentences that they could face. And I think that I I don't want to say I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for some sort of justice, and I'm hopeful that it feels like justice at the end. And I'm not sure that it will, because it has been, like Risa
Yeah.
said, 800 and some odd days, and
Mhm.
it is better late than never. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Yeah. They always tell us if you do the crime, you do the time. So hopefully the time will match the crime, in this regard. I hate
Hmm.
that a young lady lost her life behind a lie. How many more people have to lose their lives behind a lie, be it from the police or from Joe Public? Like, stop lying. Like, it's time to live in your truths and be honest. You don't lose anything
Hmm.
out of being honest unless you out here doing criminal stuff and you deserve the time that you get. But be honest about situations. Don't
Hmm.
lie on your fellow neighbor or the person down the street in order to make yourself look good or to win something or just shine in the eyes of your fellow
Hmm.
employees. So I really think that again, this is the first step. Hopefully we get to the sentencing stage. Hopefully it makes it all the way
Hmm.
through and these indictments stick and the charges stick and they are found guilty for everything that they have been charged with. I hope
Hmm.
that at the end of the day, Breonna Taylor's mother and boyfriend and loved ones can say that her death was not in vain. I want to be able to say that we continue to say her name for 874 days in order
Hmm.
to get to the point where we are at the beginning stages of justice for her. I want to say that those 180 days that the citizens of Louisville and surrounding areas protested in that city meant something, that it all was not in vain.
Hmm.
I would like to feel that, these officers lying to the feds is going to catch up with them in the regards of actual punishment and that we see actual justice for Breonna Taylor. You know, the
Absolutely.
charges that we announced above were all criminal against those individual officers, but there is a separate investigation, civil rights investigation into the ongoing patterns and practices of Louisville Metro government as well as Louisville Metro Police Department. The civil suit is examining allegations of systemic violations of constitutional rights and federal law, and is being handled independently from the criminal case by a different team of career staff. So not only are they pursuing criminal, they're also pursuing civil. And sometimes people feel like, oh, well, if you just reward them civilly, throw some money at it, the problem goes away. No, I need you all to fully go through the whole criminal investigation, go through the process of, making sure that these charges stick. Like, this isn't oh, bad, 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 you told a lie, don't do it again. We're not pat people on the hands nowadays. We need people to actually
Hmm.
stand in their truth. They need to be held accountable. If you did the crime, you got to do the time. And it's time that we as a people can finally say the justice system is recognizing the wrongdoing and jumping into action.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think that the fact that there is a separate investigation into the Louisville Metro government and the Louis Metro Police Department examining allegations of systemic violations says a lot about why these officers felt comfortable in lying in this manner,
Yeah,
right? Like, if
yeah,
if there's a systemic problem in the government, then that
hmm,
answers the question of, like, how could somebody possibly feel okay with making these
yeah,
decisions. And potentially it starts with the Louisville Metro government. um, and uh, it's it's amazing that we are here in this place of like potentially breaking down one of the systemic things or systemic organizations or processes or just a systemic problem that exists in the Louisville area. Uh, and maybe that or this investigation can open the eyes, hearts, minds of other places that are having similar issues. Because this is a systemic problem in the United States. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it starts with the US government and trickles down to all the states. And unfortunately, this is a much bigger problem than this instance. And I'm I am not satisfied, but definitely glad that they are making this step into this area. Um, it feels daunting, right? Like it feels very daunting
Yeah.
and massive to think through all the systemic things that we
Hmm.
experience as people of color and Black people. Um,
Hmm.
and it just when I hear this and I read it and I've been reading it on my screen, like it's like man, but this is only like one city in
Yeah.
one state of
Yeah.
50 of like an entire
Hmm.
country of like systemic processes that do not benefit or make it safe
Yeah.
for me to exist, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's still like it's a lot to process and a lot to hear you say this because then you think about, well, man, this is a good step in the right direction, but fuck, we got a long way to go. We got so
Yeah.
long and so far to go still. Um,
Yeah.
and it just feels, I don't know. I'm hopeful and hopeless in this
Yeah.
moment, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
feeling that I have in
Yeah.
this moment. Yeah.
Right. It's like I'm living in reality because I know what reality looks like, but I'm hopeful that there will be a change, you know? So, it's hard to be excited
Absolutely.
about, the charges that have come forth because we've been here before, you know? We've been here before where
Hmm.
charges have been filed and then it's like, oh yeah, no indictment. What? Or, not
Hmm.
guilty. What? So
Hmm.
to be here again is like, all right, here we go. So, I am bracing for the worst, but I am hoping for the better, So we'll
Absolutely.
see how it all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out. And then it's
Hmm.
time for people to know that with these civil suits, you can't just throw money at us and think that our problems go away. You can't keep paying our families and then still killing other families too. I mean, this is not how we wanted to get our reparations. So if that's what you think this is, like, come on, like that's not how reparations should be paid out to Black people. And then what you gonna do it one family
Hmm.
at a time? Like, come on, it
Yeah.
is definitely exhausting, to
Hmm.
continue
Yeah.
to have to experience the tragedies and keep having to go through the trauma of police misconduct or brutality in the Black communities.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I want to be clear about something. So this is not the Justice Department is not filing a civil suit. It's a civil rights investigation. So these are additional federal charges that could come down against the Louisville Metro government and Louisville Metro Police Department. So there's a separate investigation regarding civil rights uh, for other individuals that could potentially warrant additional charges going forward. But yes, they're probably like, if they're found guilty, there probably will be civil suits as well that will come from this if more people are involved, if more people are to be found um, as victims of the practices that have been going on down in Louisville. Hmm. And then also, the charges are separate from the charges previously filed by Kentucky against Hankinson related to the shooting at Taylor's home. The federal charges allege violations of the Constitution rather than state law, which I believe he was acquitted of. Is that correct, Reese?
Yes, in February of this year, 2022, he was found not guilty of the counts of wanton endangerment, which were filed against him for shooting through the wall. So the initial charges against him had nothing
Okay.
to do with him killing, or should I say murdering, Breonna, but basically like, what he quote unquote did to the wall. So he was found not guilty
Yeah.
for wanton endangerment when the bullets went through the wall back in February of this year. But that was on a state level. So now
and
these federal charges are here.
Yep. The federal charges also allege excessive use of force with respect to Taylor and a person staying in her apartment, violations not included in Kentucky's case. These federal cases were investigated by the FBI Louisville Field Office. Trial attorneys Michael J. Songer and Anna Godfrey of the Civil Rights Division are prosecuting the cases, with the Assistant U.S. Attorney Zachary Dimbo of the Eastern District of Kentucky. So I think we wanted to share this information with you to, one, keep you informed, keep you up to date. Two, say Breonna Taylor's name. Say that the protest and the continued outcry and the continued remembering of this individual, Breonna Taylor, has resulted in pressure against the federal government to investigate. That pressure has now led to the uncovering of layers and layers of conspiracy, of lies, of cover up, of wrongdoing by the police department. And this is why we don't shut up about things, right? Like, I hear people say sometimes, like, when are you going to get over that? When stuff like this continues to happen, right? When are you going to let that go? When we feel like we've been served justice. Like, this is when we won't shut up, first of all. Second of all, if you want to, if there's going to be a time where I'm not going to be as loud, it's going to be when this happens. But still, she should be here. Breonna Taylor should be alive today, and she wasn't because people conspired, created false narratives, and murdered her in her house. And we're going to continue to say Breonna Taylor's name. We're going to continue to say the names of so many other who have fallen unjustly too soon, and at the hands of police officers who used excessive force and who murdered them in cold blood when they said they did not feel safe. And I feel very, again, I'm hopeful for justice, but I feel very scared of the possibility, or afraid of the possibility, that justice will not be served. And that part is still something that I have a problem digesting or dealing with. And I think I don't want to be in a situation where my life is taken too soon and I'm leaving my parents in the position that Breonna Taylor's mother is in, like, wanting so bad for justice to be served and not being able to obtain it. And I wish that, and I hope that, if nothing else, this can kind of serve as some justice for her. And she has been doing amazing work in Louisville. Breonna Taylor has a foundation. She has been championing so many different civil rights organizations. She is not rested. And I hope that this case can potentially allow her some rest if and when justice is served.
Yeah, it was said that the next group of civil rights leaders may be born and coming out of Louisville, right now. They definitely allowed their voices to be heard. They definitely stayed the course. They definitely
Mm-hmm.
ensured that Breonna's mother knew that she was not in this fight by herself, and that we care. We will continue to say her name, Breonna Taylor. Um, I think that these charges and these indictments are a good start, and that's all. I can't be
Mm-hmm.
super excited, like, and I keep saying, like, it's a start. I want to get us to the point where we can be excited when we hear that people who do unjust things will be handled, and justice will come, from it, so
Mm-hmm.
I am living in reality because I know, where we are as a country, but I do have hope that we will do the right thing in this. I have hope that the jury, if it gets to that in Louisville, will be impartial and, weigh out all the facts and, put themselves in the shoes of Breonna. If you were sleeping in your bed, or her mother, if you lost your child because somebody lied, I hope that they take all of that into consideration and let justice prevail for Breonna Taylor.
I I hope the same. I hope the same.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor should be alive today. I know we have said that a
Hmm.
lot, but I think I want to continue to say it that she should be alive today.
Yeah.
She should be here. She should
Yeah.
have been able to live a life that she was
Hmm.
creating for herself. And it was taken from
Yes.
her. Her opportunity was taken. Her life was taken. Her existence was cut short. And
Yeah.
to hear more and more details come out about how it was cut short is
Hmm.
heartbreaking and saddening. But I am I am less disappointed and less saddened, uh, knowing that the FBI and the investigations that they have conducted has yielded fruit,
Hmm.
and they're using that to indict these individuals and to um, so they can have their day in court. And
Yeah.
I think that that is a step in the right direction. It took too long to get
Hmm.
here, and like I hope justice is served. Justice is a weird thing in America for people of
Hmm.
for me. I'm not going to speak for everybody. It's a weird thing in America for me, and has become
Hmm.
more and more ambiguous for myself as I have gotten older. I think in college I was very much somebody who did a lot of research because I wanted to go to law school. I became a paralegal. I did work at law firms, and I think that I was disillusioned by right and wrong in the eyes of the law and right and wrong in real life. And I've
Yeah.
experienced and have learned that right and wrong in the eyes of the law and right and wrong in real life are two totally different things. And there are multiple
Yes.
systems of prosecution and justice and liberty and freedoms for different people in America. And uh, I've been shown uh, and experienced uh, injustice and in many ways. And if it weren't for my profession at the time, my life could be in a totally different place. Um,
Hmm.
and I say that by like being pulled over in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas, being asked by a police officer, where am I going? Why am I in this state? If I had drugs or guns in the car, him trying to convince me to get in his back seat. Uh, being pulled over in Fayetteville, North Carolina, um, and told that I was swerving after a police car drove up next to me with no lights on at 11 o'clock at night, turned its lights on and made me swerve, and then was told that like I was on video camera swerving. Um, and if it wasn't for my profession at the time, like in those two instances, I don't know what would have happened. Like
Yeah.
my life can be completely different with those two experiences.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
countless times that I've been pulled over by police, again, if it wasn't for my profession at the time, I don't know where my life would be. And so
Yeah.
I think that it's hard to hear, but I'm happy for this case to be going to trial, and I can just hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we definitely have traumas associated with the police and people who are protecting and serving. I think that we definitely need to continue the checks and balances and checking in on our people, and let people know where you're going. It's not trying to be in somebody's business. It's okay to travel away from home and send somebody your location. Like, ping me. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I could care less what you're doing, but I definitely couldn't care more about knowing if you're safe or not. Like, that is one thing that I have. It's just like, I just need to know, like, are you safe? Did you make it to your destination? Did you make it back
Mm-hmm.
home?
Yep.
Those are things that I feel like we need to normalize. It's okay to let people know that I'm visiting this person or I'm visiting this area, and just leave it at that. Like, you don't have to go into details about what you're doing, but just be open about where you are. For instance, like this, I had no idea you got pulled over in Arkansas, and had all that going on. I didn't even know you were in
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas, so even that, if nobody knows that you're in Arkansas, you come up missing.
We talked
Like,
about
I
it.
wouldn't think to say, oh
We
yeah, he was last seen in Arkansas. Like, I wouldn't know that. So we
we
have to be more vocal.
this was like in 2014. Like you heard about it like a long time ago. I called you right when I did my cross country trip from California to after nationals. When I went from California
Okay,
all the way back to North Carolina, I called and told you
I
about it.
remember that.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I think I remember most
Yeah,
of
because I
them.
told you
I
right after.
don't remember that one. Okay, so I
Okay.
don't remember that one because we talk about a
Okay.
lot of them. you know,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, so listen, cause I'm all about where you at. You okay?
You
Did you
are.
make it? um, but yeah, I would like to think that the justice system will now be justice for all, as it is stated, and that it will be recognized as such, and that we as Black people and brown people and yellow people and people of color, period, can say that they feel like the system is working for them and not against them. um I always say it. We have to, be gentle with ourselves. We're only responsible for the day that we're in, but within those days, we need to be as safe as we can. And even in being safe, even in being sleep, things could go horribly wrong. So we just got to make
Mhm.
sure that we just keep each other lifted, and send out good vibes for us all, and try to stay as straight and narrow as we possibly can. And just again, pray that the justice system is now finally about to turn the tides and finally be about justice for all, as it's stated.
Mhm. I still have I guess, a hard time grasping the justice for all piece, but I am happy that they are, in this instance, attempting to. Uh, Earlier, I think the quote was preserving the integrity of criminal justice system, and I think
Mm-hmm.
of it as this is an opportunity for them to instill integrity within the criminal justice system and to
Yeah.
protect the constitutional rights of this American that was murdered, right? And I think that
Yeah.
part is like, as much as I want to say every American, like I don't feel that I can at this point yet, and I can't say that again. The integrity of the criminal justice system, like it's non-existent at this point. So we need to do a lot more to fortify before I can really speak positively, in my opinion, to that. But I am happy in this
Yeah.
step. I really appreciate like us being able to have this conversation, uh, and I think we decided to do this. We had a couple of other ideas, but when this came out, we were like, we have to talk about this because this is top of mind. This is happening now, and there's going to be so much that
Yeah.
about comes out and about regarding this. So hopefully, we have done our job and giving you some tidbits and some information that you can go look in a little deeper. We shared some of our thoughts and feelings, and um, I think we are both passionate about our lives and wanting to remain here on Earth for as long as we can because we got stuff to do. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I think that I think you hear that in this conversation is that
Yeah.
we both experience the thought of like of not feeling safe so often, and that has to
Yeah.
change in this country as a whole. But we're happy that these measures are being taken in this instance, and hopefully this can spark a larger conversation. This can spark a larger movement of justice throughout this country. Um, Reese, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Um, no, my normal. You are only responsible for today. All other days will take care of themselves. Be gentle with yourselves. Love on those who are around you. Express love, share love, be love. And yeah, let's survive. Let's make sure that we are looking after our people as well as looking after ourselves. Know that I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us how you're feeling about this. Tell us your thoughts. If you found some more information, please share a link. We really appreciate you having these conversations and being here for these conversations. I think what we're gonna do, I haven't discussed this with Reese, but I think it would be a really great idea since it's coming up, is to have a live finale show. I think that would be awesome to kind of like talk about season 3 and talk about the different topics. So yeah, we'll bring you some more details on that because we're gonna like work out some details on that as well. But yeah, we appreciate y'all.
Okay.
We love y'all, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye, chillers.